Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 13. Pereira versus Ankalaev. First things first, obviously in a different location today. Have a lot of stuff going on, getting some remodeling done at the house. So don't have our normal location, but we're not going to stop from putting the podcast out. Last week had the flu. Didn't stop from putting the podcast out. There's nothing that's going to stop us. We've gone through a move, still put the podcast out. I will do whatever I can to get it out because there is always money to be made. Apologize in advance if you hear my wife and kids in the background. It is what it is. We're at a different location, but I'm in a great mood. Had a terrible week last week in regards to picks and bets. I attribute that to being sick. Maybe I didn't do a great job there because I wasn't in the great headspace. In a fabulous headspace right now, and we're ready to just make money. Pay-per-views is usually a little better for us. We know the fighters a little better. We know their tendencies are a little less unpredictable than random Vegas cards. So where underdogs are harder to come by, but it is what it is. We're ready to jump on board, and it's pretty chalk heavy this week. At least in my opinion. I guess we're gonna find out. So again, a lot of stuff going on here. I'm gonna fly through this pay-per-view. Let's start with the very first fight of the night. I'm talking about how pay-per-view fighters are a little more dependable. Not so much with the first fight of the night. We are looking at Ozzy Diaz at plus 165, going against Jordan Santos at minus 200. Over 2.5 is plus 110. Under 2.5 at minus 140. Let's start with Santos. Santos should not be a minus 200 favorite over anybody. He's not very good. He trains with the Bonfim brothers. That's his biggest claim to fame. He's super, super young, a lot younger than I thought he was, I believe. Let me pull this back up, make sure I have the right guy here. He is 27 years old. He just looks a lot older than me. His striking's okay. That's his bread and butter. His jujitsu on paper, he has some submission wins, but I am yet to see him use jujitsu. He only had 3 or 4 fights that you could actually physically see, and there was no grappling in any of them. So I don't know, a little bit of a sketchy record going on here. A very big can crusher. His wrestling didn't seem great. His takedown defense looked okay. He's definitely a lot better when he's marching forward and dictating the pace. Nothing fancy, just a lot of 1-2s straight down the middle. His cardio checked out. It wasn't great. He definitely slows down in round 3, but he goes a good pace at rounds 1 and 2, and then he'll just slow down a little in the third. But again, in all the fights I watched, he was winning, so it didn't really matter. Maybe he can keep his foot on the gas if he needs to. What I didn't like about him is that he doesn't counter strike at all. If you pressure forward on him, he just backs up with his hands up, resets, and then reestablishes, throwing his 1-2s over and over and over again. He just doesn't counter at all. It's he goes first or he doesn't go at all, and it just doesn't look great. Constantly retreating to the judges. Um, I don't know, man. I'm just not overly impressed with this guy. He had a huge win on Contender Series as like a plus 300 dog. But we come to find out, he fought Curry from freaking Cage Warriors, Will Curry. Will Curry has a solid body kick and really good jujitsu, but I've never seen an MMA fighter not use their hands. Well, Chris Gutierrez, but Chris Gutierrez uses his hands more than Will Curry does. Like, he does not even know how to throw a punch. He literally only knows body kicks and jujitsu, and his wrestling's not very good. So it made Santos look phenomenal, throwing his 1-2 and being able to stuff Will Curry's takedowns. Will Curry wasn't able to use his jujitsu because he can't wrestle. So he literally just tried to throw body kicks, and Jordan was literally just throwing 1-2s down the middle, making it look easy. Ultimately, won a very, very easy decision. Did not look plus 300 at all. But I attribute that more to Will Curry not knowing how to throw a punch than Jordan being a great puncher. On the other side, we have Ozzy, who does know how to throw a punch, but he's not very good at it either. He has a 4-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I wouldn't say his striking is bad per se. Maybe I should rephrase that. He does know how to throw a punch, but it's just like he takes a while to get warmed up. He more waits for you to get tired, and then he takes over and gets a lot of late round 1 finishes, early second round. The dude's never won a decision. I don't think he's ever gone to a decision. He's pretty kill or be killed. It doesn't look like his cardio is bad by any means, but we don't know. We haven't seen him make it past the second round. Really, I don't think he's been in the third round in his entire career. The level of competition is not great. I mean, his best wins are like Bavon Lewis. That's not a great win at all. His jiu-jitsu is all right. It's not good. It's not bad. It's serviceable. His wrestling seems terrible. It seems like he can't wrestle to save his life, but I don't know if that's going to be a thing in this matchup. Like, neither one of them can really wrestle. They both prefer to strike. The problem is Ozzy Diaz has 3 career losses, and they're all by finish. His last fight, he got knocked out. Granted, it was at 205, and this fight is at 105. We always talked about Dana White Contender Series, the B. Joe Pyfer. Yeah, that came out because he starched Ozzy Diaz. Ozzy Diaz was the one on the other side of that who got absolutely killed. And yeah, Santiago Diaz knocked him out in 15 seconds in round one. So yeah, not only is he going out there and getting knocked out, he's getting knocked out real early in the round one, first minute in the round two. So he's a little chinny. Again, he will have the American crowd behind him. We're in Vegas, so they just always just cheer for, if it's American versus foreigner, they cheer for Americans by default. But again, he's a little chinny. He's a very slow starter. He does fight better going forward as well, so it'll be interesting to see which one gets the advantage. Initially, I was going to do a dog or pass because they're both god awful, but that Aussie chin, I can't do it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Jordan, and I'll probably end up betting either the under or just kind of go with the favorite in Jordan, but I think this is a favorite or pass scenario. Should probably just stay away from this fight. It's first fight of the night. Weird shit always happens. Pick is Jordan. The pick is Santos. The bet is going to end up being Santos or passing. Next fight of the night is another one I was initially going to stay away from. We have Chris Gutierrez and John Castaneda at a straight pick 'em at -110. Initially, Gutierrez was a small dog, but money came in on Gutierrez, and it's just a straight pick 'em as it should be. Over under is juiced as it should be. Over 2.5 is -300. Under 2.5 at +240. And let's start with Chris Gutierrez since we were talking about how kick heavy he is. That's all he does. A lot of leg kicks, a lot of head kicks, a lot of body kicks. He very seldomly throws hands. He'll throw a spinning back fist occasionally. He has 71% takedown defense, can kick going backwards. It's very interesting. He's very fine. He's fine going backwards, and he's a very proficient kicker. He's fought a very good level of competition, fighting Song Yadong, fighting, um, I guess Alton Ali isn't that great. Pedro Munoz, Frankie Yeager. Like these are Cody Durden. Like these are good fighters that he's fighting. The problem I have is jiu-jitsu's okay. He trains at Factory X Muay Thai. They all have pretty good striking and good jiu-jitsu. That's their two things. Problem is their wrestling. They generally have okay takedown defense, and that's what his is, sitting at 70%. Problem with him though is that he gets stuck on his back. Song Yadong took him down and looked like Habib out there. Like he just could not get up. We saw in his last win against Kwang Lee, who took the fight on short notice, was able to get him down to the ground. And when he got him down to the ground, Chris struggled to get back up. So I'm not a fan of him just playing guard down there. He just needs to get the fuck up because he can win a lot of these fights on the feet. He wants to be on the feet. He prefers to be on the feet. He's better on the feet. But if he gets taken down, he kind of grows complacent, which is scary fighting someone like John Castaneda because he's a little bit of a wrestle boxer. He's a much better boxer than he is wrestler, but I believe he does have like D2 wrestling in his back pocket, and he does mix it in, and he's been mixing it in a lot more as of late. His fight against Muin Gaffarov, we saw it a lot more. His fight against Kong Ho Kang, we saw it a lot more. Daniel Marcos, he wasn't really able to get takedowns, but Daniel Marcos has like a 90% takedown defense. So that's more on Marcos being able to stuff them than Castaneda being a bad wrestler. He's a proficient striker. He's an okay wrestler. He has okay jiu-jitsu. We saw him take down and submit Miles Johns. The problem I have with John Castaneda is that this is his second weight cut in a week's time. He was supposed to fight last week. His fight got canceled day before the fight because Douglas Silva de Andrade had some weight cut issues. They deemed him not ready to go. So John decided to accept this fight, and it's a harder fight against Chris Gutierrez on a week's notice after he just cut weight. Now they are trying to help him. This fight's going to be at 145, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have to cut some weight to get down to 145. These guys cut a lot of weight, so this is going to be very interesting. If this was a full fight camp, I would probably lean Castaneda ever so slightly with the double weight cut. I think it's a straight pick 'em, and I'm a little scared of this fight. So the trick is not to pick it. At the end of the day, I'll go ahead and I'll pick John Castaneda. Will I bet it? No. What I'm going to bet is the over. Both these guys are pretty hard to finish. We've seen John Castaneda finish, but that was an exhaustion finish, and I don't think that's going to happen again here. He's going to have weight cuts, but he did have a full training camp. So the pick is going to be John Castaneda. The bet's going to be over 2.5, but it is juiced at minus 300. So you're going to have to parlay it up. Next fight of the night, we have Marion Santos at minus 310 going up against Francis Marshall at plus 250. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 195. Under 2.5 at plus 150. Let's start with Marion Santos. It's a kid I believe in a lot, man. He's 24 years old. He's at a good camp at Extreme Couture, so he's in Vegas currently. He has really good striking. I wish he threw a little more. He doesn't throw in combination at all. He throws really, really hard leg kicks. He throws really, really hard hooks. He's a Muay Thai striker through and through, where they're not volume based, they're very power based. He has very good takedown defense. In fact, his one career loss is against a UFC vet and Dan Argueta. That fight, we learned a few things. People are going to say he had bad takedown defense, and that's why he lost. No, one, Dan is a very good fighter. Two, that was back in 2022. That was 3 years ago. So he was a 20-year-old kid at the time of that fight. And thirdly, that was at 135. And that's his last time ever fighting at bantamweight. The rest of his fights have been at 145, and he's looked a lot better there. We saw him on the Ultimate Fighter wrestler, and Edwin Cooper. He's a very good wrestler, and he was able to go ultimately win that fight, stuff a whole bunch of takedowns. His cardio checks out, his striking's good, his jiu-jitsu is good. He won't offensively wrestle, but he has really solid takedown defense. We saw him use it in the finals against Con Offley. Con isn't a good wrestler. We know this, but he stuffed it, made it look easy, and then put Con away. So yeah, man, I like this kid a lot. He has very good counters, very good leg kicks. And if he does get taken down, like we saw in the Ultimate Fighter, he had an urgent get up game. He really, really, really wanted to get up. And Cooper didn't even try to advance his position. He didn't try to land any strikes. He wanted to just hold him down. So he did hold him down for a few minutes or so. But that was him just doing everything he can to just body lock and hold him down. The rest of the time, he was not able to do so. He has an urgent get up game. I like this kid a lot. I think he's the future. I just wish he threw a little more. I need a little more volume out of him. On the other side, we have another kid I like a lot. We have the Ultimate Fighter going against Dana White Contender Series here, and Francis Marshall. Francis is 8-2. Both losses are in the UFC, and it kind of sucks because he was kind of they didn't realize what they were doing to the poor kid. His losses were to Isaac Dalgarian and William Gomes before they knew both of those guys were good. Francis is 25. So this is a little 25 on 24 action. He has good striking. He has okay wrestling. His jujitsu is a little questionable. He has, like I said, he has good losses, but he has kind of soft wins. I mean, Marcelo Rojo's not great. Dennis Bazukia is not great. Connor Matthews isn't great. So, like, his UFC wins aren't aging well, but his losses are aging well. So it's interesting. He's not above just clinching and holding on to you. We saw him do that to Dennis Bazukia in his last fight. He's much better moving forward. He's not really that good of a counter striker. His cardio's decent. He can go a hard 15 minutes. He does slow down in the third round as well. But he can go for a full 15 if need be. Yeah, man, he's an overall good fighter. I don't like that these guys are fighting each other at 24 and 25 because I think they both have a future. And his UFC record's going to look terrible if he's, what, 2-3. That's not going to be a good look. But again, if his three losses are Marion Santos, William Gomi, and Isaac Dogarian, I hope they give Francis another shot. Again, he's a dog for a reason. Marion should win this fight. I could see Francis to win this fight is going to have to wrestle. He's going to have to wrestle his ass off. And he's just not that good of a wrestler. It's going to look okay against Marcelo Rojo and Dennis Bazukia. But when he ran into people he couldn't take down, and William Gomi and Isaac Delgarian, it didn't go well for him. So the pick is going to be Santos. The bet is going to be Santos at minus 300 or minus 310, whatever he's at. Next fight of the night, we can save a little bit of time on because this is just going to be murder. We have Alex Morono at plus 550 going up against Carlos Leal at minus 800, over 2.5 and under 2.5, both at a straight pick 'em at minus 115. Let's start with Alex Morono, the Great White. He's someone I can't stand. One, because of his name, his nickname, it's a little questionable. Two, his fight style is he's not great. And three, I don't know, something about him just rubbed me the wrong way. He's 34 years old. He's an aging veteran in this game. He has really good jiu-jitsu, but you'll never see it because he refuses to wrestle. He tried to wrestle Anthony Pettis, and that was it. Oh, and Reese McKee. Those are the only two times I've ever seen him shoot a takedown was Pettis and McKee. So that was interesting. Otherwise, he has like 10 UFC fights and he's not wrestling at all. He does have good striking, but he's 34 but he's 34 on paper, but he's basically a 40-year-old fighter in fight years. Dude fights everybody, never says no, and he goes to war all the time, and he's declining rapidly. He did not look good in his last fight against another veteran, and Daniel Rodriguez did not look good. He looked career worst the fight before that against Nico Price. He gassed out in like 3 minutes. He fought old man Court McGee. Like, yes, he is 34, but they realize that he is old. He fought Tim Means. He's fighting nothing but old guys because he's just slowing down as of late. He's never had good cardio to begin with. He's always slowed down, and he never had a good chin. He gets knocked out or knocked down all the fucking time. So he has a good level of competition, and he is an overall good fighter. It's just we're watching his talents decline at a rapid pace. So if you give him anyone competent, he's in a little bit of trouble. That's what we have in Carlos Leal, exactly that, competent. He's a very good striker. He's 30 years old, so he's in his prime. He generally pressures forward, and he's very, very durable. He is going to hunt down Alex Morono with zero regard for his health because he's not scared of Alex Morono. Alex Morono doesn't hit that hard, and Carlos Leal will not be scared of him. He has really solid takedown defense and will even mix in a few takedowns himself if need be. His level of competition is not bad, fighting Renat Rodima, fighting Sabadu Sai twice over in PFL. He's thrown a pretty decent high amount of volume there. His cardio checks out. He has a lot of acne, so there might be a few juice allegations going on, and I think he ran into a juicing issue in the past. So he might be on the sauce. So we're going to bet him. I'm not going to bet against the guy that might be on steroids. So this is an easy pick here. You have an absolute berserker who's knocking everyone out. You have an aging veteran who's getting knocked out by everyone. This is a setup. Carlos Leal took his last fight on short notice and was screwed by the judges. And I think the UFC is trying to do him a solid here and go, our bad. Here's Alex Morono. You won't need the judges. His chin is going to be fine for you. So the pick is going to be Leal. The bet, can't bet Leal. I mean, he's minus 800. It's fucking ridiculous. So just take the under 2.5. It's minus 115. If Leal wins, it's going to be inside the distance. So it's just save yourself some money. Pick Leal, bet the under 2.5. Next fight of the night. We have a fun one. We have Armen Petrosian at minus 155 going against Bruno Ferreira at plus 130. Over 2.5 plus 125. Under 2.5 at minus 160. Let's start with Armen Petrosian. He's someone that I continually bet on because he's always an underdog. And he always comes out and gets the job done. He's a favorite now, so this is going to be interesting. He's 34 years old. He has good striking. He has really good cardio, especially for this weight class at 185. He's just a striker through and through. He has absolutely terrible takedown defense, 31% takedown defense. It's awful. It's one of the worst in the UFC. The good news is he has some of the best get-ups I've ever seen in the UFC. When you take him down, which you will, it's not if, when you take him down, he's not down there long. He pops right back up. People like the black belt hunter, Rodolfo Vieira, was able to take him down and then submit him rather easily. Yeah, I mean, that's a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. Once he got the takedown, it was over. But the fight after that, where he lost against Shara Bullet, he was winning the fight. He was beating Shara Bullet, and then he got hit with this really random double spinning back fist. That's not normal. We've never seen that before, so I'll kind of write him a pass. We're losing to a move we've never seen. and losing to the black belt hunter when you have a terrible ground game, like those are serviceable. Losing to Kyle Baralho, that's fine. Kyle Baralho is about to fight for a world title, and honestly, is probably going to win it if he ultimately fights DDP. Here's the problem I have. His first career loss was a knockout in 1 minute and 3 seconds. Concerning. Does he have a little bit of a chin issue? I don't know. He has four career losses, and two of them are by KO. So he can dish it out. I mean, he's a very good striker, world class striking, but he might be low key kind of chinny. He throws a ton of volume, but doesn't have a ton of power. He's a little pillow fisted. He goes to decision over and over and over again. He lets you back him up, but he's good striking backwards. He's a world class striker. He's fine with going backwards. So I don't know. There's a lot of there's a lot of give and go. There's a lot to dislike. You just got to give him the right opponent. If you give him a world class jiu-jitsu guy, if you give him a crazy power striker, he's in a little bit of a trouble. But granted, he did beat power strikers. He beat Gregory Rodriguez. He beat AJ Thompson. He beat CLD. Like these are good wins on his record. They're giving him a crazy power guy here in Bruno Ferreira. But Bruno doesn't really scare me. A lot of money's coming in on Bruno because they expect them to catch Armin, especially Armin coming off of a knockout loss. Everyone's saying Bruno's going to catch him too. But Bruno's a little chinny himself. His striking's okay, but I have also watched live where he was struggling striking against Dustin Stoltzfus. Not a good look. His jujitsu is all right. His cardio or his wrestling is all right, but he's a judo guy. He's not really a go out there and shoot a whole bunch of single and double legs, which is how you get Armin down. He's a throws guy. He wants to grab you and pick you up off the ground and toss you around the octagon. That's a lot tougher in the UFC because Bruno's a small guy. Armin is 6'3". Bruno's 5'10". Like this is a little middleweight, jacked, a ton of power on him, but he's just kind of a smaller frame. And the worst part is his cardio. His cardio is god awful. And if you force him to wrestle, he wrestled a little bit in the Phil Hawes fight. He wrestled in the Abus Magomedov fight. You force this guy to wrestle, he gasses. Even in the Dustin Stoltzfus fight, he got taken down. And after he got up, yes, he got that knockout in round one, but he was tired at the end of round one. This guy has terrible cardio. And then we've seen him against Nursultan Rozabayev get knocked out in 1 minute. So he might be low key chinny himself. He might be a little bit of a glass cannon. We saw Abus Magomedov rock him, and we saw Abus Magomedov take him down and out cardio him. Like that's the most concerning part. His cardio is the worst part of his game. Cardio is the best part of Armin game. The best part of Bruno's game is his power. The worst part of Armin's game is probably his takedown defense or his chin. So I get it. I get why people are on Bruno, but it's not as if you want to call Armin chinny, I don't know, man. Bruno could come out here and knock him out, but that double spinning back fist is an anomaly. That's not normal. Armin has fought RoboCop. Armin has fought CLD. Those guys hit harder than Bruno. So I'm going to go ahead and side with the actual talent in Armin. The pick is going to be Armin Petrosian. The bet's going to be Armin Petrosian. It sucks that he's not a dog this time, but we're going to go ahead and place some money on our boy. Next fight of the night is one of the dogs I actually like, and let me walk you through it. I fucking love Joshua Van at minus 190. Ray Sahura is plus 160. I love Ray Sahura as well. It's just the over under is set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 195. Under 2.5 at plus 150. Let's just start with Joshua the Fearless Van. He is the absolute man. I've bet on Joshua Van like every single one of his UFC fights. Outside of Zalgas, I was on Zalgas in his debut. Van is only 23 years old, which is absolutely insane. He has really good striking. If you're a solid fighter in the UFC, you land about 3.5 significant strikes per minute. Joshua Van lands 8.8. 8.8. He more than doubles what most people do on a daily basis. His cardio is his bread and butter. The dude never gets tired ever. He's fought a very good level of competition for only being 12-2. He has 80% takedown defense, and he's fought people like Cody Durden, who are very good wrestlers. His jiu-jitsu he needs to work on, and he's mentioned that, and he's getting at it. He loves to go to the body. He will rib roast you over and over and over again. And as he's building in his fights, you're falling apart. Then he will have to build because he's never won a round one. Cody Durden, no, he did not beat Cody Durden in round one. Edgar Chairez, Charles Johnson, Felipe Buns, Kevin Borjas, Zalgas, he lost round ones to every single fight in the UFC. He always starts slow. And then he keeps working your body, and then you break. That's what happens every single one of his fights. And I'll be honest, that's going to be his game plan here against Ray Teixeira. So I can never say his name, and it's not hard. I don't know why I can't say it. Ray's good. He's a little one-dimensional. He's 22 years old, so we have 22 on 23 action again. So this is going to be interesting. He is a very good wrestler. He is very tricky and good jiu-jitsu. But his striking is ass. His volume is trash. His level of competition isn't very good. He'll have a 3-inch advantage, but he'll have no idea how to use it. His cardio is not great. I've seen him slow down in two different fights. But here's the reason I'm picking Ray to win the fight. I love Joshua Van. I want Joshua Van to be a UFC champion, in all honesty. But he's 23 years old and he's fighting Ray, who is a different breed of wrestler. When you're fighting Cody Durden, he's a folk style wrestler who's only going to shoot singles or doubles. When he takes you down, he's looking to take your back and get an RNC. That's what he's doing. He's not doing anything different. Cody's a much better striker than Ray Sahira, so people will say, well, Van beat Cody, so he's gonna beat Ray. Ray is a different type of wrestler. Ray is funky. Ray is a different type of grappler. Ray is funky. And Joshua Van can drill his sprawl. He can drill double and single leg takedowns over and over and over. But Ray is the type of guy that's going to shoot and hit you with the duck under. Ray is the type of guy that's going to literally use a lateral drop in an MMA fight. Ray is the type of guy that will give you a head and arm, give you his back, and scramble. He is a scramble master. I grew up in New York, and New York State is known for scrambles. Like you watch kids that are wrestling at Cornell, like you just see a whole bunch of scrambles all over the place. Then you have your bread and butter, your PA guys, your Ohio guys that are just great at doubles and singles and just the fundamentals. New York says fuck fundamentals. We're just going to do crazy stuff. Kind of how you see like Patrick Mahomes doing no look passes and stuff in football. It's just funky. That's how Ray is. So you can have your traditional Tom Brady. I'm a pocket passer. I'm back there and I'm just the greatest pocket passer to ever live. Yeah, that's kind of how Cody Durden's wrestling style is comparative. Ray Sahira is the Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, no looks, crazy stuff going on. That why are we doing run options? Why are we? It's just funky stuff you're not used to. And Van at 23 years old is not able to train that. He's not right. It's going to be stuff he's never seen before. I think Ray Sahira could potentially submit Joshua Van. Joshua Van has two career losses. Joshua Van's low key chinny. Keep that in mind. He's been dropped in almost every single one of his UFC fights, and his one loss prior to the UFC was a submission. He got submitted out there. I love Joshua Van, but Ray Sahira is weird. He is funky, and he can get funky takedowns that Josh Van cannot train for. He can hit him with his main submission is a twister. That's his first go-to. It's not, I'm going to take you down with the double, grab your back, and rear naked choke you. It's, I am going to literally hit a duck under. I'm going to cause a scramble, and then I'm going to try to twister you. Like this, he's just so funky that I don't think Van can prepare for this. And he's taking this fight on short notice. He didn't have a full camp to train for Ray. He's going to get hit. This is where you see Van get Peruvian necktied or some weird funky stuff that's about to come out. And I just don't think Van's ready for that. So the pick is going to be Ray. The bet's going to be Ray. I'm going to be sad to go against Josh Van, but styles make fights. And that's my long tangent and why Ray's funkiness is the key to victory. Next fight of the night, we have Curtis Blades at minus 325 going up against Rizvan Kuniev at plus 260. Over 2.5 is plus 100, under 2.5 at minus 130. Let's start with Kuniev. He's someone that fought on Contender Series, didn't get a contract, went over to PFL, got a really good win, but he pissed hot. And when I tell you he pissed hot, I mean, he didn't take a steroid. He took all the steroids. It's like a whole page full of stuff that was in this man's body. There is no way you can say that he accidentally took this stuff. He was on, he wasn't on gear. He was on the gears. It was intense, the amount of stuff that he has. He's 31 years old. Unlike other heavyweights, he actually can wrestle. So that's a little bit of a red flag with Curtis. He has okay striking. His cardio looked great when he's on the sauce. Off the sauce, I've seen him get tired. His jujitsu is all right. He knows what's going on down there. And he is okay with just clinching against the fence, though. He will just hold you a little bit if need be. He's not the world's greatest fighter, but he doesn't do anything wrong, in all honesty. He's not very athletic, but he knows what he's supposed to do. So he's kind of a scary guy. Usually, heavyweight, you just have a whole bunch of power punchers that don't know how to wrestle or grapple. This guy knows how to strike. He knows how to wrestle. He knows how to grapple. He's going to beat a lot of heavyweights in the UFC. Is he going to beat Curtis Blades? I don't know. Biggest problem with Curtis Blades is his chin. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He has good wrestling, but defensively, low key a liability. I saw Cody, what's his name? Cody Eastman, I believe. Cody East take down Curtis Blades multiple times. The Jailton Almeida one is skewed. They say he took him down like 11 times. They were mat returns, they weren't takedowns. But still, Jailton proved to be a decent wrestler there. Curtis has really good offensive wrestling, but defensively is a little more of a liability than people realize. People are just going to talk about his chin. And is he chinny? Yeah, yeah, he is. Is it his fault? No, because the guys that knocked him out were Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich, Tom Aspinall, and Francis Ngannou twice. Those are literally the 4 hardest punchers the UFC has ever seen. Period. So is he chinny or did he just run into power goats? A little bit of both. He fought Rosenstruck, who also hits very hard. Won the fight, but he did get rocked badly. So I just everyone at heavyweight can crack though. That's the issue. So he has a great level of competition. Again, he's fought for a world title multiple times. He's just never wins it. His striking has largely improved. No one talks about that. He has some power himself. Um, his cardio is great. His wrestling is great. Like everything is good about Curtis Blades. He's probably the better striker. He's most likely the better wrestler. He's probably jujitsu's a wash. He definitely has the better cardio. He has a 4-inch reach advantage. Everything is advantage Curtis. Just his chin. Rizvan does not hit as hard as Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich. What if Rizvan's on the sauce again? This is his UFC debut. What does he have to lose? Curtis is going to have the crowd behind him as it's an American versus a Russian. But this fight scares me. Rizvan could go out there and just clinch him and out wrestle Curtis Blades. That is on the table. Rizvan can go out there and chin check Curtis Blades. That is on the table. Curtis should win. I'll pick Curtis. But this is one you should probably stay away from, or could potentially take the over 2.5. If Curtis Blades wins, I don't think he's going to knock out Rizvan. I think this is going to go all 15. And as Rizvan wins by just wrestling, that's also going to go over. And the over 2.5 is plus 100. So I think that's a sneaky way to play this. Don't trust Curtis's chin. Just try to take some plus money. So the pick is going to be Curtis. So that's going to be the over 2.5. And cover yourself. Next fight of the night is another one where don't be super invested. We might just try to chase some money. We have King Green, not Bobby. King Green at plus 350, going up against the new Conor McGregor and Marcio Hufi at minus 455. Over 1.5, minus 175. Under 1.5 at plus 135. Let's start with King Green because he's kind of cooked. He has really good striking. He has a good level of competition. He has a ton of volume and great cardio. And sneaky good jujitsu. Like a lot of good things for King Green. Problem is he's 38. This is going to be his 51st professional fight. And with that, his chin is deteriorating at a rapid pace. He's someone who got knocked out by Dustin Poirier, and that is it for like 45 fights. And then all of a sudden, Drew Dober cracked the code. We saw Islam win by KO, but that was a ground and pound, but it was still KO. Drew Dober knocked him out cold. Jared Gordon is trash. Tony Ferguson is old and washed. Grant Dawson has the worst striking at lightweight. Then he fought Jalen Turner, and Jalen Turner knocked him out at least 5 times in 2 minutes. Like it was really, really, really bad. Then we saw Jim Miller rock him more than once in a win. And then we saw Paddy Pimblett choke him out. So this dude has lost consciousness to his brain. His last one, two, three, four losses. He has four losses, and they've all been him getting finished. And that's a guy that wasn't finished for like 45 fights. Like this, that's called 38 catching you. And that's why this is where it is. He keeps his hands extremely low. He might have the crowd behind him. He should, but Hoofy's the new hotness, so we'll see. But the UFC is trying to set this up. They're trying to give this Hoofy another striker where he could go out there with a big name and get a big KO. Because the one thing Hoofy does well is crack. He hits extremely hard. He's 28 years old. He'll have a 4-inch reach advantage in a predominantly striking fight. Definitely has the power advantage. He is okay jiu-jitsu. I'll say it's a wash. Wrestling is all right, but he prefers to counter. He has that light Connor stance where it's kind of karate-esque, and he throws a lot of tricky, fancy stuff. He's very creative out there, and they glaze this dude. They will not stop talking about how good this guy is, how good this guy is. He's not that great, to be honest with you. He has bad cardio. His level of competition is not great. I mean, they set him up with Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie Mullarkey is an absolutely terrible chin. He went out there and got the knockout. Not impressive. Jamie Mullarkey gets knocked out by everybody. James Lawlentop, although he's extremely durable, he's there to get hit. He's extremely hittable. So it made Huffy look great going out there and hitting a punching bag. And now they're giving him King Green, who's 38 years old, and his last four losses are all by finish. They're trying to set this up. But King Green, although he's old and washed, does have cardio. And if Goofy does not put him out, we saw him struggle with James Lawlentop. This could be the same thing all over again. They just it could be the same. It's just King Green's a little harder to hit, but his chin is worse. So I don't know. The pick is going to be Huffy, but I can't trust him at minus 500 almost. It makes no sense. I'll go ahead and I'll bet Bobby Green for the culture. I can't tell you to put money on Bobby Green, but that's what I'm going to be doing just because this is a total setup fight. Mauricio should win this easily, but for the culture, I'll be putting one on Bobby Green. Next fight of the night, we have Amanda Lemos at plus 115 going up against Yasmin Lucindo at minus 135. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 270. Under 2.5 at plus 200. Let's start with Amanda Lemos. She's good, man. But just like Bobby Green, she's old. She's 37 years old. She has good striking. She has decent power. She has okay jiu-jitsu. It's not good. It's not bad. We've seen her. She's a good guillotine. Defensively, she's a little bit of a liability. We saw Jessica Andrade hit the standing arm triangle. We saw her get submitted by armbar in her last fight, but that was Verna. I mean, Verna is Verna. 61% takedown defense is the problem, though. She is not a good wrestler by any means, and her cardio is not great. She does slow down in a lot of her fights. She slowed down in the title fight. You would say, oh, well, that's 5 rounds. Well, she also slowed down in the Mackenzie Dern fight. She slowed down in the, not Marina, in the Angela Hill fight. Like, we've seen her slow down multiple times. But you don't have to have great cardio if you're finishing everyone. We saw her guillotine Michelle Watterson. We saw her knock out Marina Rodriguez, which is not easy to do. We saw her drop Mackenzie Dern multiple times in the first and second round, which is not easy to do. So Lemos is a very good fighter. She's a little bit of a glass cannon. She is an absolute dynamo on the feet. She has a pretty sneaky jiu-jitsu game, but defensively, she's there to get got, and her takedown defense is not great. But a good level of competition and a former title challenger. On the other side, we have another young gun in Lucindo, only 23 years old. She has good jiu-jitsu. She has okay wrestling. She has okay striking. She can do it all. It's just something about her screams a little too much too soon. You can tell she's a little green. First and foremost, she doesn't like pressure at all. She does not react well when someone is making her go backwards. You saw her lose to Yasmin Yiragui because Yasmin continually went forward. Lucindo can also be chin checked. We saw her drop by Marina Rodriguez. We saw her drop by Yasmin. She gets dropped all the fucking time. She will use that wrestling game, though. She had multiple takedowns against Brogan Walker, multiple takedowns against Polyana Viana, multiple takedowns against Marina Rodriguez. Problem is, they're all body locks. She doesn't really shoot singles or doubles or finish them if she does shoot them. She likes trips. She likes to grab a body lock and trip you. It's a lot harder to body lock girls that are taller than you. It's just a lot easier to do to shorter people. You kind of jack them up, suck their hips in, and it's a lot easier when they're taller than you. It's harder to jack them up because they're physically taller. And Lemos will be a lot taller than her, and she's a physically strong girl. Now, Marina Rodriguez is taller too, and she fights exactly like Lemos, but Marina's not as physically strong. And she's also a god awful wrestler, as is Lemo. Marina somehow worse. Carolina can't wrestle for shit. Pollyanna Vienna is one of the worst wrestlers I've ever seen. Rogan Walker can't wrestle for shit. So yeah, she's going out there and just getting like 3 takedowns against girls that are the bottom of the barrel when it comes to wrestling. Lemos, not much better. So let's keep that in mind. But Lemos is a lot stronger. She's not going to be able to just body lock her. She's going to have to get doubles and singles. That's how you take down Lemos. Blast doubles. Lemos goes down like a sack of potatoes. Will Lucindo shoot that, or is she going to keep trying to body lock and triple? I don't know. And I'm not willing to find out at minus money. Fuck that. If anything, I'm taking the title challenger at dog or pass odds. So the pick is going to be Amanda Lemos. The bet's going to be Amanda Lemos. And I'm hoping for a vet lesson. Next fight of the night, we have Jalen Tarantula Turner at plus 105 going up against Ignacio Bahamondes at minus 125. Over 1.5, minus 165, under 1.5 at plus 130. Let's start with Jalen. Jalen's good, man. He's 29 years old, so he's in his prime. He has good striking. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has pretty decent power on him. His wrestling's okay. We saw him use it in the Dan Hooker fight a little bit. He tries to wrestle, he's just not great at it. Good level of competition, fighting the aforementioned Dan Hooker, fighting Hanato Moicano, fighting King Green, Mateusz Gamrot. Like, these are all top 5 guys. Problem with Jalen is you can chin check him. He's been knocked out 4 times in his career, on his professional career. His cardio is not good. He slows down in every single one of his fights. In fact, he's never won a decision. He finishes you. He's an absolute killer, and he's killer be killed, because I don't know if he has the cardio to make it look good for 15 minutes. God forbid he's ever in a 25-minute fight. Take the under. Great fighter all in all. If you go down to the ground, he's dangerous. If you're on the feet, he's dangerous. But if you can survive, the dude gets tired. He starts real fast, and he will continually slow. And please watch the weigh-ins. He is someone that battles that scale. He's 6'3" at lightweight. It's very tough for him to make the weight, and he doesn't always do it, and it hurts his performances sometimes. On the other side, we have Ignacio Bahamondes, who is also 6'3" at lightweight. I think it's him. It's Bahamondes, Jalen, and I think Joel Alvarez is also 6'3" at lightweight. It's those 3. Or is it? I don't know how tall Joel Alvarez is. He might be 6'3". I know Tom Nolan's freakishly tall at lightweight. I think he's 6'3" too. So it might be the 4 of them that are 6'3". Either way, this is someone that's going to be Jalen's size, which he is not used to. He has a great striker. He has okay jiu-jitsu. I'll say the jiu-jitsu is pretty much a wash. I'll say the striking is a wash. He throws a ton of volume, more than Jalen. His wrestling, I would probably give the slight edge to Jalen. But again, Jalen's not a great wrestler either. Cardio, definitely Ignacio. Ignacio is a cardio machine. The thing that, and he's been training with Bilal Muhammad. It's his main training partner. So he's been training with the champ the whole time. His power is increasing. He was a young kid when he came into the UFC. He's only 27 now, but he's been in the UFC for years. I mean, he won his Dana White Contender Series fight in 2020. So that was 5 years ago. It's 2022 at the UFC. And I'll tell you what, his loss to John McDessie, I bet John McDessie that fight, that could have gone either way. It was a split decision. And his only other loss was to Ledevitt Klein, who's very, very good, very underrated. And you know what they have in common? They're both explosive, fast twitch, smaller strikers that explode in and out. And the little short explosions, just for whatever reason, these little short, fast twitch guys, he struggles with. But if you give him a Manuel Torres, if you give him a Christos Giagos, someone that's a little bigger, a little more laboring. A Rong Zhu. He'll be able to, we just saw how good Rong Zhu is. He went out there and dominated Rong Zhu. A Roosevelt Roberts. It's these short, fast guys that he struggles with. Jalen is his it's his size and his athleticism, and also at 27, he's all growing man strength out of nowhere. He's getting kick knockouts and choke knockouts back then. A lot of decisions against Trey Ogden. But now you see him go out there in his last two fights and get round one KOs over Manuel Torres, over Christos Giagos. Like these are good fighters, and he's going out there and now starting to put the power on and finish. So he's coming into his own. He's training with the champ. He's just entered his prime. I like the kid a lot. The pick is gonna be Ignacio, and I'm gonna end up betting Ignacio. I believe it's a super close fight. It's one of the closest lines for a reason. If you want to just pass and enjoy it, that's the smart thing to do. If you're an absolute degenerate like myself and you want to bet every single fight, I'm betting Ignacio. I'm not going to chase the plus money. Plus 105 is not enough. I will settle for the minus 125. I think it's a trap. Pick Ignacio, bet Ignacio. And then that takes us to the co-main event of the evening. We have the highlight, Justin Gaethje, plus 140 going up against Rafael Fiziev at minus 165. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5, minus 135. Under 2.5, plus 105. No fight is like the first fight. If they went to decision the first time, I expect them to for there to be a finish. If there was a finish the first time, I expect it to go to decision. The first fight was a decision. So that makes me think knockout. Who do I think gets the finish? I think it's Fiziev, man. Fiziev is 31 years old. He's going to have an inch and a half reach advantage. He has world class striking. He's a striking coach over at Tiger Muay Thai. His jiu-jitsu's trash, but his takedown defense is very good at 90% takedown defense. And that's someone that has fought Gamrot for a round. He's fought RDA. He's fought Hanato Moicano. All these guys are decent wrestlers, and he has 90% takedown defense, which looks really good. Um, Even Gaethje himself is a D1 wrestler. He never uses it, but he did shoot two takedowns against Rafael Fiziev, and that should tell you something. He's a motherfucker on the feet. He hits decently hard. He's pretty durable. He's been knocked out before, but just one time. The problem, he has pretty decent volume as well. For a power puncher, he does have pretty decent volume. The problem I have with him is twofold. First and foremost, this is his first, he's taking this fight on short notice. That's the first problem. Second problem is he hasn't fought since 2023 because he like tore his ACL or broke his foot or something against Mateusz Gamrot in the second round. He threw a kick, instantly went down to the ground, required surgery. Haven't seen him since. So we haven't seen the dude in almost 2 years. That's frightening to bet him as a favorite after a 2 year break. But the dude's been itching for a fight, and he's a motherfucker. And he's a stand up fighter, and this is gonna be a stand up affair. Justin Gaethje ain't wrestling. Believe me. Even when he took down Fiziev, he did it with 10 seconds left in the round just to kind of try to secure the round. Otherwise, he stood and banged with them the entire time. And Justin has done that his entire career. He's not changing now. He's 36 years old. He himself has good striking, decent power, good cardio. Fiziev will fade later on in this fight. So I did forget to say that. Justin's jiu-jitsu's trash too. So that's another reason he doesn't wrestle because they both have trash jiu-jitsu. 75% takedown defense. But Fiziev ain't shooting, so who cares? His cardio's okay. I think we already went over. His level of competition is great. The crowd will be behind him 110%. Is he going to get the win again? I don't know. The first fight was very, very, very close. It could have been scored either way. I had money on Justin, and I thought Fiziev won. So it's crazy to say Fiziev hasn't fought in 2 years. They're running it back, and he's still the favorite. That says a lot. That says that even other people thought maybe Justin only got that because of the crowd. But he's gonna have the crowd again. It's gonna be no different. It's gonna be the exact same thing. And you would say, well, you have the red flags with Fiziev not fighting in 2 years, coming off an injury. Yes. On short notice. Yes. But Justin may never be the same. I think his chin's going. We saw him cracked against Charles Oliveira. We saw him cracked against Michael Chandler in a win. We saw him cracked multiple times in the Fiziev fight. Like, let's not forget that he was on wobbly legs more than once. Dustin Poirier, he was fine. And then we saw one of the greatest knockouts of all time against Max Holloway, where he was literally convulsing on the ground. So this is his first fight since that UFC 300 battle. No, I just don't think at 36 years old, Justin's the same guy. I think he's his chin, he gets in car crashes, and his chin has been kind of fading his last few fights. And I don't think that Max Holloway one helps at all. Max can crack a little, but he doesn't do that to people. And I think a lot of that is on Justin's chin after all the wars, opposed to Max Holloway just getting more power at 155. So again, no fight is usually the same as the original. The original went to decision. I think this one's going to end inside the distance. That's going to make me lean the Fiziev way. So um, the pick is going to be Fiziev. The bet's going to be Fiziev. Or you can even take the under 2.5 at plus 105. It's not a bad look. It's plus money. But I'm probably just going to take the favorite and refrain from all these dogs. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever there's social media. There's a Status Max podcast. We're filming when we don't even have the right location. So please show support as I support your wallets, hopefully, with this card. We have Alex Poatan Pereira, minus 115, currently holding the belt, waiting for our boy Juicebox to get it. Fight defending it currently against Magomed Ankalaev at minus 105, over 2.5 minus 165, under 2.5 plus 130. Let's start with Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev, first things first, is not following strict Ramadan rules because of the title fight. The UFC thought they were getting up on one or getting up on him, making him fight during Ramadan because the UFC hates Magomed Ankalaev. He's not exciting. He beats all their prospects. He's not fun. They don't like him. And he does stupid shit all the time. And he just really agitates them. He doesn't want to fight all the time. And he's very low volume. It's just not great. But he beats all their prospects. He's 21-1. He's 32 years old in his prime. He has good striking. He has okay wrestling. A little overrated just because he's Russian doesn't mean he's Habib out there. He can wrestle, but he doesn't do it often. Jiu-jitsu is all right. His cardio is good, especially for a bigger guy. A lot of these guys slow down. His power is decent. Most of his wins are by knockout if he doesn't want to draw you out in a snooze fest. The biggest issue I have with him is one fight IQ. He doesn't wrestle a lot of these fights where it would be just 10 times easier. He's not the greatest wrestler, but these guys at 205 can't wrestle at all. So if you could do it just a little bit against a lot of these guys, like Poatan, hell of a lot easier time. Will he wrestle? I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't expect him to fully, but there's always the possibility that he does, especially if he takes too many low kicks, because the dude refuses to check kicks. He's going to have to do one or the other. He's going to have to check a kick, or he's going to have to wrestle. Because if he just stands there and lets Poatan chew the hell out of his legs, he's fucked, period. He does not check leg kicks. The best tool of Poatan is his left hook and his leg kicks. Like he puts people in wheelchairs with his leg kicks. Like, for the love of God, Ankalaev, please check a kick. UFC wants Poatan. He has saved them a million times over. He's 37 years old, so he only has so much more he can go anyway. He is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage, a clear striking advantage. He's a great world-class striker. Is the hardest power puncher we've ever seen at 205. Second hardest. I would say Anthony Rumble Johnson was probably the hardest at 205. Or you could say it's even a tie. But extreme power. Wrestling's trash. I went back and I actually watched a montage of everyone that's taken him down in the UFC, and he does not believe in sprawling. I don't think he knows what a sprawl is. I know he's training stuff, obviously. Ankalaev, they think he's going to wrestle. I don't know if he does. And even if he does, uh, no, he doesn't sprawl at all. I saw Bruno Silva take him down multiple times. Jan Blachowicz looked like DC out there. Like, it was embarrassing. Especially singles. He had no idea to do it a single. Double, at least he tried. I saw Israel Adesanya body lock him, and it was bad. It was very, very bad. Dude can't wrestle to save his life. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt by knocking people out. He got his black belt after knocking out freaking Jamal Hill. That makes no sense. He is not great on the ground. He is proficient. He trains with Glover. He knows what's going on the ground. Is he good at it? Is he a submission threat? No, especially not to Ankalaev. His cardio checks out. I'll give him that, and he will have the crowd behind him. He is a crowd favorite, but the dude can't wrestle, and he's low key chinny. I've seen him rocked in the Khalil Roundtree fight. I saw him put out in the second Izzy fight. I saw him rocked in the first Izzy fight. He gets chin checked often. Uh, Part of that is because of how much weight he cuts. Part of that is he's 37 years old and has been fighting his entire life. He had a whole kickboxing career prior to the UFC and MMA. So that chin has been being tested for decades. Not the few years he's been in the UFC. That chin has been getting cracked for decades. So the guy is a great striker. The guy is great for the UFC. And the UFC will do everything they can to keep him as champion. And when I do see Ankalaev actually wrestle once in a while, he doesn't look to advance position. He doesn't look to get a submission. He doesn't look to get a KO ground and pound finish. He likes to kind of hold you there. And I would not be shocked if the UFC gives a little wink wink to the ref and goes, stand them the fuck up. Like it would not. If Ankalaev does decide to wrestle, he's gonna have to grapple full. He's gonna have to use jujitsu. He's gonna have to advance or throw some elbows down there because I feel like the UFC is gonna have a fast trigger to get the stand up. That scares me. That makes me lean Poatan. But then I look at the odds and I see plus money kind of on Magomed at minus 105. I expect him to be plus money by the time the fight kicks off. And if there's a plus sign next to Ankalaev, I'll have no choice but to press the button. I don't want to do it. I'm not a Poatan guy. I am not a fan of Poatan. Um, I'm just not. He's very overrated. He's one of the worst UFC champions we've ever seen. But he's the right guy at the right time. In a division where no one knows what wrestling is and they can only strike, he's a world class kickboxer with extreme power. So, right place, right time. I think he's there to get got. And I think he could definitely win this fight if Magomed decides to just stand and bang. But if Magomed decides to wrestle, he can win this fight. It's just will the UFC screw Magomed, who they hate, to favor Poatan, who they love, and have a quick trigger with the stand up? I can see it. And it leads me back to Ankalaev when I think about the fact that he's going to have to wrestle. He has no choice. So the pick is going to be Poatan. The bet is going to be whoever the plus money is. And at this point, it's Ankalaev. And that's UFC 313. Not the greatest pay per view. People love this pay per view. It's all right. But I feel good about the picks. I feel good about the reads. And I'm going to feel great if we make some money this weekend. Let's get after it.